what is partnership in commercial law? At the outset, a partnership is not simply a business arrangement. It is a fiduciary relationship. Each partner is both a principal and an agent of the others, which means that one partner's acts can bind the entire firm. This dual role is the essence of partnership law. The relationship is also regulated by statute in Victoria. The governing statute is the Partnership Act 1958. So, when we study partnerships, we are looking at both the equitable obligations that partners owe to each other and the statutory rules that support them. Formation of a partnership. A partnership is usually formed by agreement, which may be oral, written, or inferred from conduct. But remember, since it is contractual in nature, the normal rules of contract law do apply. This means issues like capacity come into play. For example, minors or those of unsound mind may not have full contractual capacity, and therefore their ability to enter partnership is limited. The law is concerned to ensure that only those who can properly understand and bear the obligations of partnership can become bound by it. Section 5 of the Partnership Act defines a partnership as the relation which subsists between persons carrying on a business in common with a view to profit. There are 4 elements in that definition. Firstly, there must be 2 or more persons. Second, they must be carrying on a business. Third, it must be in common. And finally, it must be with a view to profit. The case law has explored each of these elements. In Smith versus Anderson, the court distinguished between partnerships and companies. In Khan versus Mia, the House of Lords held that the partnership commenced as soon as the parties embarked on the venture, even before trading began. And in R versus Raddock, the court considered the need for a genuine profit motive. So, these 4 elements form the test for determining whether a partnership exists or not. The relationship between partners is founded on 3 sources: the agreement, the statutory provisions, and fiduciary obligations. Partners may agree between themselves how the relationship or partnership is to be run. In the absence of agreement, the statutory provisions fill the gaps. For example, sections 28 and sections from 32 to 34 of the Partnership Act deal with rights and duties relating to capital, profits, and decision making. Beyond agreement and statute, there is the equitable overlay of fiduciary duty. In Shen versus Zachariah, the High Court stressed that partners owe duties of utmost good faith to each other. In United Dominions versus Bryan, fiduciary duties extended even to negotiations before a formal partnership agreement was signed. And in Scotts versus Lawrence, the court reinforced that partners must not put themselves in positions of conflict. So, the law insists that the partnership relationship is one of trust and loyalty. Another important issue is partnership property. The question is, what belongs to the partnership and what remains personal property of the partners. Sections 24 and 25 of the Partnership Act deal with this. The test is whether the property has been brought into the partnership stock or acquired for the purposes and in the course of the partnership business. In Harvey versus Harvey, the court looked at whether certain farming assets belonged to the partnership or to an individual partner. The significance is that partnership property is available to satisfy the debts of the firm, while personal property is not. Each partner is an agent of the firm and of the partners under Section 9 of the Act. That means the act of one partner can bind the firm, provided they are within actual, implied, or apparent authority. Partners are also jointly liable for the debts of the firm and for wrongs committed by any partner in the course of the business. Look into sections 13 to 16. In Mercantile Credit versus Girard, a partner sold cars without authority, but the firm was still held liable because the sale was within the usual business of a car dealer. In Walker versus European Electronics, the scope of a partner's authority was considered. And in Tower Cabinet versus Ingram, the issue was whether a retired partner remained liable to third parties. So, agency principles extend into the partnership context, making partners responsible for each other's acts in business. Finally, how does a partnership end? A partnership may dissolve in several ways. It may end by operation of law, for example, on the death or bankruptcy of a partner. The parties may agree to bring it to an end, or one partner may give notice to the others. The court may also order dissolution, particularly where it is no longer just and equitable to continue. After dissolution, the Act sets out the winding up process. Section 39, 43 and 48 provide for settlement of accounts, distribution of assets and the rights of creditors. So, dissolution is not the end of obligations. It triggers the process of winding up and settling affairs. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lesson.